suppose we'll kick things off now. Appreciate everyone joining today. My name is Tony Radzowski. I'm Sales and Marketing Coordinator for Turnkey Technologies. I've been driving you a little crazy over the past few days or few weeks, really, and bugging you to attend this event. So on behalf of everyone at TTI, we really appreciate you joining us today. And a special thank you to anyone who was on our call earlier with Palo Alto and Aruba Networks, Mike McGuire. Really appreciate that. So for those of you on the call maybe not as familiar with us, we're a global value-added reseller of IT and security products across all vertical markets. So TTI only chooses to work with the best of breed technologies to deliver to our customers. Additionally, we provide complimentary 24/7, 365 support to our customers for the first year with every installation that we do. We don't know anyone else in the business that provides that level of support. The reason we're able to do that is that we trust in the products we offer, and equally as important, we trust in the design we create for you. So on top of that, we have the greatest team of engineers, some of which are on the call. They're all deeply certified, both with the manufacturers we support, as well as agnostically. And we truly believe you couldn't make a better choice to partner with TTI for your IT and security needs. So today, we're pleased to have our partners from Aruba Networks, with whom we're a platinum partner with, here to present you to Aruba's newly released 6th Sense for your network, Aruba ESP. We can cue the spooky music. I'll let the experts take it from here. So without further ado, here's Brian Ciateschi from Aruba Networks to tell you all about it.
Should be off of mute now. Tony, can you hear me okay?
There you go, Brian. Sorry about that.
Oh, nope, no problem at all. So definitely appreciate you setting up the meeting today and for everybody taking the time to attend. On the line from the Aruba team, there's actually a few folks. So myself, I'm a channel systems engineer with HP Aruba. Also with Aruba, we have Logan Jones, Shaman Anderson, and Steve Botlagador. I don't know if you guys wanted to take a moment to introduce yourselves. If not, that's totally fine. I do want to make a quick note. I'm going to go through a few slides. I'm going to keep the slides to a minimum and get to the demo of the Aruba Central interface as quickly as possible. I prefer to be asked questions whenever possible. So I don't know if you are able to take yourselves off mute. If not, you're welcome to put something in the chat box. And Tony, you can interrupt me anytime a question comes in. So I definitely want to make that note. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And while I set that up, if anybody else on the Aruba team wants to unmute themselves and introduce themselves, feel free to take the time.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. This is Logan Jones from Aruba. I'm the territory manager here covering the eastern side of upstate New York. I've been working with healthcare, higher ed, and K-12 for about 5 years with Aruba. And we've been covering basically from Rockland County north up to the Canadian border. And I have counterparts that cover New Jersey and many other spaces. So thanks, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Logan. Perfect. Well, hopefully everybody can see my screen. I am not in presentation mode currently, and I'm doing that intentionally right now. I will be in presentation mode in just a minute. I have this slide deck, which I am willing and able to share if you want to see it. You can see it's 22 slides long, including the title and thank you slide. I've hidden most of them for today's session. A lot of the content in here is to be quite honest, marketing related, and I really wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of the platform or solution offering, if you will. One thing to understand, so Aruba ESP stands for Edge Services Platform. So I'm going to put this into presentation mode here. And really, more than anything, it's a marketecture. So you cannot, look online, Google search, if you're familiar with Aruba's tools or distributors out there, you can't buy a SKU for ESP. It doesn't exist. ESP really ties into Aruba Central. So the first slide I have, and I skipped about 4 of them in the deck, if you will, but this really talks about what's encompassed within ESP. So the primary component of the Aruba Edge Services platform would be Aruba Central, which is our cloud-based network management platform. Within Aruba Central, we offer multiple services. So some of these services include onboarding, so onboarding of users, client devices, network devices, provisioning of devices, orchestration of devices, as well as SD-WAN orchestration, AI being artificial intelligence, locationing. So not only can we see locationing of sites, but we also have Visual RF, which is a feature set of ours that allows for RTLS, which is real-time locationing services. And then it is a network management platform, hence the graphic there of management. Below that is dynamic segmentation. So this is under the policy section here. This requires ClearPass. So ClearPass Policy Manager, if you're not familiar with that, that is our NAC solution, or Network Access Control solution. In addition to that, there's a reference here of PEF. PEF stands for Policy Enforcement Firewall. We have firewall capabilities, or a built-in stateful firewall, in all of our instant APs. We also have our controllers, which have the ability to operate as gateways within Aruba Central that can utilize their firewall capabilities to create and enforce policies as well. And then from an underlay standpoint, we're looking at our infrastructure. I know the coloring makes it a little difficult to read what you see there, but you can see a graphic of access points, specifically referencing Wi-Fi 6, but Aruba Central actually supports APs back to the, and depending on if many of you are or are not Aruba customers, but we're talking 6-7 years back, all the way to the IAP 9293, all the way to the current model APs. And any current model AP, if it starts with a 5 as the first digit in the model number, means that it's a 802.11ax or Wi-Fi 6 access point. So don't think that in order to support Aruba ESP or work with Aruba Central, it has to be a Wi-Fi 6 AP. We've been supporting APs for a number of years with this platform, just referencing that we do support the latest and greatest, being that newest wireless protocol. Next up would be the switches. So today we support Aruba OS S switches, which is our standard campus line of switching. That would be based on or built on the legacy ProCurve switching line, or Provision OS, which has now been upgraded to Aruba OS Switch, and to incorporate newer features such as dynamic segmentation, such as VSF, which is virtual stacking, and then a number of other features. There is a reference here, though, of Aruba CX. So we have Aruba OS S, which is our campus line of switching. We also have Aruba OS CX, which is our newer line of switching, which is not built off of any legacy hardware of HPE's. It's a operating system that was essentially built from the ground up in 2017 from scratch. And with that, we released some higher end products initially, and we've been coming out with more and more series of models within that platform as time has gone on, all the way down to the CX6200 series, which can be viewed as a campus access switch. So there is some bleed over between the two platforms. Now, our CX switching line is currently not supported in Aruba Central today, but it will be in our very next release. So definitely wanted to highlight that. The current version of Aruba Central that we're on today, publicly available, is 2.5.1. The next version is going to be 2.5.2, where we're going to see support for the CX switching line. And then lastly, gateways. So we have the ability to point our mobility controllers into Aruba Central. And when a controller is used in Aruba Central, it is not acting as a typical wireless mobility controller, but rather it's acting as a SD-WAN gateway. So there is a required gateway license that would go along with the controller. So your APs would not be pointed to the controller itself, but rather the APs would be pointed to Aruba Central for management. The APs would still have their own local coordination. The controller be functioning as a gateway device, and able to do policy enforcement, SD-WAN orchestration, dynamic path selection, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to pause for a moment here because I know there's a lot of content on this slide, and I know I covered quite a bit. But are there any questions on this? And I should ask the other question: is everybody on the line familiar with what Aruba Central is, or is this your first introduction to Aruba's cloud management platform? And Tony, if you see anything in the chat box, or if you want to unmute anybody, you're welcome to do so.
Let's see.
I think folks have the ability to unmute themselves. At least I did. This is Chris Voll. So if you have a question or you want some information, just unmute yourself. That's normally located bottom left-hand side. You'll see a mute there. You were put into mute by Tony. You can lift yourself out of mute. If you ask your question, we just ask you to put yourself back in mute when you're done, so we don't have any dogs show up on the call or anything like that. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Chris. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment. Unless you
no
want to
problem.
take Chris's advice and jump off mute, I think we could proceed.
Perfect. Nope, definitely appreciate it, Tony and Chris. So jumping ahead here, talking about Aruba ESP. So there's some core components to it. You'll hear the acronym, which is kind of an acronym within an acronym, AI Ops, right? So artificial intelligence, ops being operations. So there's a feature set that's been built into Central since the release of 2.5, and obviously enhancements have come in 2.5.1. More enhancements are planned for 2.5.2. Which is your AI insights. So we have the ability to proactively see what's going on from a device standpoint and a user standpoint. We can see what a root problem is, and the platform is now intelligent enough to not only identify what the problem is, but also recommend a suggested solution option on top of that, all through the artificial intelligence built into the platform. From a unified infrastructure standpoint, and I have another slide here that is not hidden. We're going to drill into that a bit deeper, but essentially it's kind of the standpoint of one platform where we have the ability to view everything underneath a single pane of glass is what that's referencing. And then zero trust security. So that really does tie into ClearPass. So ClearPass being our NAC platform, Network Access Control platform, there is a component of ClearPass called ClearPass Device Insights, which is directly integrated into Aruba Central at an additional cost. So there is some licensing or a data collector component that would be used for that. And then there's full-blown ClearPass, which can actually do your authentication and policy enforcement. But the CPDI, ClearPass Device Insight, is actually the profiling engine of ClearPass, pulled out of ClearPass and used as a standalone product, if you will, that can be integrated into Aruba Central. So within the platform, you are able to detect and discover all of the devices plugged into your network. And then in regards to zero trust security, so we're able to identify, okay, this is a Windows device. Okay, with it being a Windows device, it's a security camera. Okay, now that we know it's a security camera, it's running this version of firmware, and we're able to intelligently route that device into a specific type of role, and then based off the role that device is assigned to, here's the policies that are enforced on that device. So IoT devices would obviously not have the same level of permissions as a corporate laptop, for an example. So definitely wanted to reference that, but these are the pillars, if you will, of what makes up Aruba ESP. And then talking about some of the AI Ops features built in this platform. So we have AI Insights. We did talk about that. That's essentially that smart functionality of the platform where we can see when issues occur, make recommendations, and there's optimization capabilities built into that as well. There's a search engine. So it's an AI search engine built into the platform, which exists today as well. And with that, basically at the top of the dashboard, you can just click on it and it'll make recommended, suggested kind of search functions that you can look at. You can type in, how to provision an AP, and you'll get routed to one of two different options. So A, it could redirect you within the platform of where you would go ahead and configure this, or B, it'll actually direct you to the help documentation center for Aruba Central, which is public facing. That'll give you the step-by-step of here are all of the instructions of how to provision an AP, a switch, a gateway to point into this platform. And that's just one example, but it's an intelligent search engine essentially is what's built into the platform today. And then AI Assist, that's something that is newer, that's coming. I know it's currently in the beta testing stage, if you will, but it's designed to be able to generate trouble tickets based off of any known issues and things of that nature. So here's a really good slide. This kind of encompasses everything to do with ESP and Aruba Central and all the components that are involved, if you will, or can be involved. So at the top of the food chain is Aruba Central, which is your network management platform. With Aruba Central, the two primary devices that we typically see in use with that would be your access points and then your campus access switches, right? Those are going to be the most common devices that you're going to see there. In terms of talking historically, Aruba Central at first came out roughly 6-ish years ago, and we could only support IAPs initially. After some time, we were able to support mobility access switches, which were the legacy Aruba switches, and then we were acquired by HPE. In which case we adopted those provision switches, which are were some of them, like the 2920, could be upgradable to Aruba OS switch. And now we have an entire campus portfolio of Aruba OS switches that are supported in the platform and have been for a number of years. After switches or support for those switches came out, we added in new support for gateways. So that's been around for roughly 1.5 years, 2 years now, which would be our controllers. So the term, an Aruba controller would be synonymous with a gateway in the sense that it's the same piece of hardware, just using a gateway license for it to be able to function within Aruba Central. And then you'll see some additional notes here at the bottom of the food chain. So VPN client, so we have our VIA licensing, so we can create a tunnel from a client device to a controller. So the controller is acting as the VPN concentrator. We have our UXI sensors. So that is something that's coming to the platform of Aruba Central. So today, our UXI sensors utilize their own cloud dashboard, and they're going to continue to do so in the future. However, there is going to be an integration where you can launch the app for the cloud dashboard of our UXI sensors through Aruba Central in the future. There's the graphic of our core and aggregation switches. So that's referencing our CX line of switching. And that's coming in our 2.5.2 release, which also includes the top of rack switching. So we have our 8320 and 8325 series that would fall under that category. And then the feature set of AirPass and Wi-Fi on-ramp to 5G, you'll see that reference there. So AirPass would be a feature set that we support. We support the ability to essentially transition from a cellular network to a wireless network or Wi-Fi network and back. So that's something that has been supported for some time. I did see a little flash, if you will, of a chat box. I don't know if a question came up here, but happy to address that if Tony, you don't mind reading that off.
Sorry, that was me asking anyone if they wanted to plug a question into the chat. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all.
You got one now. Now you got one.
Any integration with the Aruba user experience CAPE sensors?
Yes, absolutely. So that's let me do this. So we're basically at the end of the slides that I want to show. Like I said, I hit a lot of the slides because I really wanted to get to the demo portion. And I do have a completely separate deck specific to Aruba Central, but skipping past that, at least for the time being, if you look right here, so I'm under my account home section of Aruba Central. If you've never used Aruba Central, this is brand new. If you used Aruba Central prior to February and haven't used it since, this is brand new. So this concept of a home page for Aruba Central didn't actually exist in the past. Everything was just under network operations, and we actually segmented it where the global settings section is broken out to be separate from what's under like network operations, your dashboard, your network management, your monitoring, etc. So you're going to see here the application for ClearPass Device Insight, which is what I talked about, and I can certainly show what that looks like. But we're looking to add in an app to be able to launch the UXI dashboard right here in this screen in the future. So that dashboard is still going to remain and be a separate window that would open up, but it would be through the Aruba Central interface, if that makes sense.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Is that good, Mike?
Works for him. He's
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for the question. Definitely appreciate that. Now, before I get into the demo here, like I said, I have a ton of slides on Aruba Central, and we can certainly go into that. I don't know the audience's level of familiarity with the platform. Some of the folks may be using it today. Some may have never seen it, don't know the first thing about it. So we can certainly touch on a couple kind of overview slides if that would be helpful, or we can get straight into the demo. And before I do that as well, I do want to defer to Logan, because I know he spoke up earlier on the call. Logan, before I jump in anything further, is there anything you would like to hit on in regards to Aruba ESP?
So what I would like to hit on is a little bit about Central. So we were a traditional wireless company, started foundationally with the controllers that Brian was talking about. From the beginning, we built in security onto the controllers themselves to be able to have a stateful firewall built in. And as the world shifts and everyone starts moving to the cloud, we realized we need to have a very easy way for our customers to make that migration with us. So one of the things, what we're looking at is Aruba Central as a piece of ESP. But for those of you that aren't familiar with Aruba Central is our cloud native, cloud managed solution, right? So think of maybe a Meraki type thing. The differentiation between our cloud solution, there's many of them, right? But one of the things that our customers love the most is that if you purchase and you own an Aruba AP that connects to a controller and your model is moving towards the cloud, you don't have to wait for an upgrade or a refresh or a recycle to get rid of those controller-based APs and move to the cloud. You can move back and forth between those two different architectures and still leverage that investment that you've saved. So we're going to be talking about the cloud managed offering, but our history, our legacy came from a controller-based offering, and we've just simply taken the core values out of that, and we've moved that into the cloud. As you know, there's more data processing happening in the cloud, there's more IoT, there's more everything happening in the cloud, and taking that multi-decade knowledge of mobile-first architecture and moving it into the cloud allows us to help our customers also make that journey from on-prem hardware, that type of world, into the cloud, or stay right where they want as well, right? So there's multiple different architectures you can leverage without having to invest in different APs or anything along those lines. So one set of hardware, two ways to manage it, pick the direction that works best for you, and we can help you move in between the two. So I just wanted to make that one of my customers' favorites reasons for looking at Aruba is the flexibility, the visibility, and the security, all built right into all of our solutions.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Logan. And I did open up the slide here, which I think you actually hit on quite a few of the points on here in regards to Aruba Central and kind of the core components of it. Just to give a little background on our WLAN architecture options. So realistically, you have four options, right? You have option A, where you can use just instant, or what's referred to today as unified APs running instant OS. So that would be the APs as a standalone cluster. Option B is you can take those APs and point them to the cloud, so then they're managed by Aruba Central. Option C is you can take those APs and point them to Airwave and have them managed by Airwave. And option D would be you can have a different type of architecture. So the first three I mentioned are all referred to as just distributed architectures, where the APs are intelligent and there's local coordination between the APs. Fourth option would be a controller-based architecture. So the APs essentially are tunneling all their traffic back to a controller. Typically, you would have two for redundancy purposes. And now you change it from a distributed architecture to a centralized architecture. And very often with controller-based deployments, you're going to be running Airwave for the network management platform. So definitely wanted to reference that in terms of your kind of four WLAN enterprise architecture options that we do offer. And to emphasize Logan's point, say your WAN connection goes down, right? You had APs pointed to Central, it went down. You can still get into the instant interface of the IAPs, right? So if you have a cluster or multiple clusters, you can certainly still get into that as long as you still have access to the site or you're there locally. And from a scaling standpoint, so this is a question that we certainly get asked. Aruba Central is unlimited in scale. So We recently won Lowe's, which is by far our largest customer using Aruba Central today, which is a 68,000 access point deployment. So if you can imagine that level of scale versus a single instance of Airwave, which is typically geared towards enterprise customers. Airwave tops out with a single instance at roughly 4,000 network devices. But like I said, Aruba Central is unlimited in scale. A single instant cluster, so you would be pointing clusters of APs to Aruba Central. There's kind of two main numbers I tend to reference. These are not hard numbers, and they're roughly 3 years old. So we do have some newer models, and obviously these newer models are more capable than some of the older ones. So I would be expecting to hear those numbers increase, as time goes on when more testing occurs. But essentially our best practice, if you will, is up to 128 APs supported within a single cluster and up to 2,000 client devices supported by that single cluster. And that's prior to the release of Wi-Fi 6 and AX APs, which not only support, Wi-Fi 6 being a protocol to, improve efficiency, but also the APs themselves have better guts or hardware components than like a 300 series or a 200 series AP. If you actually compared like the processor and amount of RAM and memory in the newer model APs, it's greater than their former models. So definitely wanted to reference that.
And just to throw in one more time, that we're not changing out the hardware for any option that you pick of this. It's just the way that we do the design and base it, whether we're going to do it with any one of those models and apply the applicable licensing for that and or hardware. The AP would be the same.
Right, and we can certainly help you with that design. So we don't want to make it confusing. There's too many options, but there's an option that'll fit best for you. One of my customers is Culinary Institute of America. If any of you are familiar with the Hudson Valley of upstate New York, Culinary Institute of America has a large campus in the Hudson Valley area with controller-based architecture. There are 5 other campuses. They're using a mix between instant access points and branch gateways. And the president's house is on Central. So that particular customer is using all of the architectures at his disposal just because they have different needs and different use cases for each. And he's able to easily manage all of them. So it's no one architecture fits all. And we're here to help ourselves and the TTI team here to help you design the right architecture for your needs.
Perfect. Yep. So getting into just the kind of general concept of Central, to go over this slide and talk about the value-added services as well, because I think that is important to highlight if you're not familiar with them. So Aruba Central has what's called DM or device management licenses. So the devices that are supported within Central, referenced on the slide, would be the Aruba OS switches, CX switches to come very shortly, our branch gateways, which do require an additional SD-WAN license, and then our instant or unified, which are the newer model APs. So the device management license gives you all the general capabilities of Aruba Central. So the AI capabilities, reporting, alerting, historical, all of that, configuration, et cetera, is going to be built into device management. In addition to that, we offer service tokens. So you'll hear service subscriptions or value-added services. Today, there are 3 options. So I know this graphic shows 4. The one that references Aruba Air Group, you can ignore that. That's actually the graphic for something called Clarity. Some of you may already be familiar with that, especially if you're using Airwave. Clarity is now built into Central. So as of Central 2.5, it's no longer an additional cost. It is built into the platform, and Clarity is essentially a network performance tool that's now integrated into the platform. So the 3 tokens that are available are only for AP, so I should clarify on that, right? Guest Wi-Fi is not relevant to a switch or a gateway, right? Nobody's carrying around a desktop computer to plug into an open port. So it's all for APs. You can buy up to 3 tokens per AP, and they're significantly less expensive than the primary license. It's 1/4 of the cost, just to let you know that. Guest Wi-Fi is definitely our most popular option. It has been around the longest. And with Guest Wi-Fi, it's more like advanced guest. So the APs on their own can do general guest, right? You can have a very simple guest SSID. You can have a basic splash page, and that's about it. Versus with advanced guest, we offer additional features such as social media authentication, self-registration of guest users, and advanced customizable captive portal where you can have a banner image, a logo, a full skies background image, an advertisement image. So a number of different options there available for customization. You can even set like things like simultaneous user login limits. So that's all within the guest Wi-Fi feature set. There's an additional option for presence analytics. That's more geared towards the retail space, but essentially just tracks like visitor, passerby, draw rate, dwell time. I don't think we need to get into that too much today. And then the third option, which is our newest one. So this one is, still, I would say, being enhanced, not fully fleshed at this time. Certainly something worth testing, but it's not something I would actively go out there and position. But there is a UCC module or token, if you will, that's available today. That does give information or insight into call quality, call metrics, etc. But it is our newest token, so you'll often see like a reference of beta in regards to things like that. Even the AI Insight still has a beta reference next to it. So did want to touch on that. I'm going to jump into the interface here just for time's sake. Like I said, I do have quite a few slides, but I think at this point it'd be really good to show you the interface and some of the capabilities built in here. And I have two different tabs open. So one is a Portland lab environment I have access to. The other one is our essentially global SE Aruba Central lab environment as well. So you can see the two different graphics here. So right here, I'm in our global lab environment. And this is what the network operations view looks like. So in here, you would do all your management, your monitoring, reporting, alerting. And then here, if I clicked on network operations and hit launch there, that would take us to the window that you just saw. But before I do that, I do want to highlight these global settings. And I also want to touch on ClearPass Device Insight. So I'm going to hit launch for ClearPass Device Insight. And just to reiterate, this is the profiling engine of ClearPass taken out of ClearPass. It does require licensing, but it is integrated into Central. So this is able to detect and determine the devices currently connected on your network. The negative of that is it's not like full-blown ClearPass where it cannot take action on those items, right? So ClearPass being a NAC solution, a full-on network access control solution, would be able to like shut down a port, right? Or do policy enforcement, things of that nature. This is strictly visibility. So just wanted to emphasize that point. ClearPass Device Insight, which is directly integrated into Central, is strictly visibility. But you do have the option, if you want to take it to full-on ClearPass, where you can point this directly to ClearPass. You can point all your devices in Central to ClearPass as well. So it's not like it would stop you from getting on onto that full-blown integration. But just to show you, right, we have a number of different device types that are supported. You can see APs in here. We can see like a Linux computer. We can see iOS devices. You know, if we click on a device, we can see fingerprinting information that we're able to pull. So I just wanted to show you what that dashboard looked like. And that's a brand new feature, just came out as of the 2.5 release. Underneath global settings here, you're also going to see some very relevant we'll say categories to focus on. So like users and roles, this is where you define, you know, a role for like a network admin, right? So if you had a network admin and you had a campus with multiple sites and you had a network admin per site, you could give that network admin access to only one of your 4 sites, right? As an example. Or in the example of TTI, they could have admin access to your account and do all of your services, managed services for you, having that admin access, but they could still give you read-only access if you want to access and visualize the content of this dashboard. So a couple of different options there in terms of users and roles. Key management, really straightforward. This is where you would assign your, or upload, I should say, your subscription licensing. Device inventory, just to show you what that looks like. You can see all the devices, MAC address, type of device, what group they're assigned to. Do they have a subscription license assigned? And one thing I really like to point out with this is if you have an older AP and you had a subscription license assigned to it and you decide to renew your AP models, but your license is still good for another year, you're able to unassign that license from that older AP and assign that license that you now have available in your pool of licensing to the newer model AP. So it's not like the license is tied to the product and permanently tied. You can unassign and reassign as you see fit. So definitely wanted to reference that. And if I get to subscription assignment, which is the last thing I want to touch on in this area, we have a feature called auto subscribe. So anytime a device is pointed to Aruba Central, it'll automatically pull a license, or you can turn that off and manually assign licensing. But if we scroll down here, these are the service tokens that I was talking about here. So clarity, like I said, this is no longer relevant. You can just put this to 0, and it would still be supported in the platform. The 3 options are cloud, guest presence, analytics, and UCC. And if I go here to the devices, you can see like we have, this AP where it has 3 service tokens associated to it. This one has 4 service tokens associated to it. So just wanted to show what that looks like as well. So let's go into the primary interface of the network operations dashboard here. I'll actually tab over to our primary global lab. So in here, there's a number of different things that we can show. The first thing I want to point out is the devices section. So this shows you all the supported devices, what's up, what's down. So here's a centralized view where you can see your APs, your switches, and your gateways. Now I know that somebody earlier on the call referenced Airwave. So Airwave is very different than Central. Obviously the UI is completely different as well. Central only works with Aruba devices. So I know Airwave, you can monitor third-party devices using SNMP. Aruba Central is Aruba devices only. So definitely wanted to emphasize and highlight that point. If we go into applications here, this is pretty cool. I definitely like to show this. This ties into the fact that our APs have that built-in stateful firewall with layer 7 application visibility and a deep packet inspection engine. And you can also see this time range at the top right of my screen here. So with an AP on its own, or even a controller or a switch, an AP can only go back 15 minutes. A controller, a couple hours. Same with the switch. With our cloud platform, it defaults to 3 hours, but you can go all the way back to 3 months. And if we look here, you can see applications. You can also see websites and web categories. So we have this information, that the web portion, through a partnership we have with a company called Bright Cloud. So that's where we're pulling that information through. But from a kind of built-in standpoint, we can do application and application category filtering built in based off the tables we have loaded into our APs themselves. I prefer the chart view, which I just clicked on here, because it actually shows you the top 5 applications currently running on your network. And we can tab between applications. So this might be individual to something like Dropbox or Facebook, right? Versus categories, you might see something listed like social media, right? Which would encompass like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. All in that realm of the same category. And we have the same ability to do that underneath the website section. So definitely wanted to reference this. It is a feature set that's built into the APs and controllers with PEF licensing, but it's augmented with the platform of Aruba Central, especially with the graphics, the ability to do alerting based off of some of this content, the ability to generate reports, and the ability to have additional historical data. So definitely wanted to reference that. A couple other things that I want to touch on. If I go to the clients section here, I'm going to pick a client device, and we'll click on this Mini 2 here. What's really powerful is that this gives you a data path view. So not only can you see the client device that we just clicked on, so that we're in the client details page right now, we can see all the way upstream from the client device to the gateway in this example. Now, not every example looks like this. In some examples, you might only see the AP, right? If you have, Cisco switches or another vendor's gateway, right? You wouldn't see these items listed here. So these items are only showing up because they're Aruba OS items, and they have an Aruba Central license. They're pointed to the platform. So definitely wanted to reference that. But what's powerful here from a troubleshooting standpoint is you can see the client device. You can see information about the client device. So you can see device health, signal noise ratio, transit rate, receive rate. Here's the SSID that's broadcasting that the device is connected to. Here's the product, the AP that's broadcasting said SSID. Here's the switch that the AP is connected into. And then here's the gateway that the switch is connected into to get out to the internet. So you can see this whole flow, which significantly helps from a troubleshooting standpoint, right? You wouldn't have that visibility. And this actually didn't exist in Central, roughly 6+ months ago. So it's a new feature set that's very powerful. And on the note of troubleshooting, so let me actually get out of this and go back to the devices section. One feature that's also relatively new, and this is something I'm gonna show just in the AP section, but you can do it in all of the devices. So you can do this with a switch or a gateway. So I'll click on an AP. If you look here, there's a actions button. There's a console sub feature. So we have the ability to console into any device that's pointed into Aruba Central. So this applies to APs, switches, and gateways. So if you need to get into the CLI for the device, you can do it straight through this user interface. So incredibly powerful tool there. So I'm going to pause for a second. There's certainly a few other things that I do want to reference and talk about, but covered quite a bit of information. See if there's any questions out there, or Logan, I'll defer to you if there's anything additional you'd like to add or have me touch on.
I don't know. I don't think we see additional questions coming in, but we'll leave it open for anyone to ask those questions. And yes, I love the fact that you can get to the console, which is something that's kind of unique to what Aruba can do. But one of my favorite pieces of this whole puzzle is that with very limited training, I'm just a sales guy, right? I can actually operate Central, and it's something that I actually have running in my own house. I can click through within about 2 clicks following the breadcrumbs. I'm able to manage the network within my house. So it's a really easy way to just to manage your global environment if that's the case, right? So just everything's just a click away. And if, let's say you have a problem with a gateway, you can see that pop up. You can click on that. It opens the gateway. Your next click, you can start trying to find out what's going on there. So there's some really easy tools, and everything, like we've been saying, is just a couple clicks away as you just follow those breadcrumbs through the path.
Perfect. Thanks, Logan.
Got a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
So the question:
Can you manage this from a mobile device?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So there's actually 2 apps with Aruba Central. One is the primary Aruba Central app, and the second app is a mobile installer app. So you can have an app for an installer where they can scan a barcode of an AP, a switch, or a gateway, and essentially it'll point that device to a site. So it would be pointed to essentially a customer site to automatically join their Aruba Central account. Now, the Aruba Central app, to put it bluntly, it is primarily designed for monitoring. There are some basic configuration tasks you can perform in the app, but the app is more geared towards just a quick glimpse of here's what's going on in your network. I 100% recommend, if you're looking to do any type of configuration, troubleshooting, et cetera, to be at a a PC or a Mac or some type of machine like that, and not using the app for management. But yes, there are 2 apps. One is a general Aruba Central app. The other one's called a mobile installer app.
Great.
Perfect.
Did
Yeah,
anybody else have a question that they wanted to pose to the group that they have here? Feel free to plug it into the chat. You could unmute yourself, turn on your camera, say hello, whatever you like. I don't see anything else coming through. So I imagine everyone's caught up to speed. We're going to follow up with you afterwards, regardless. We'll be reaching out to each one of you just to touch base, see if we can find some interest here. I'd love to take a deeper dive with you about your particular environment and how this could help you. So with that being said, thank you to Logan and Brian from Aruba for giving us a great presentation. We really look forward to connecting with each of you individually and hopefully taking a deeper dive with you. Thank you for your time today on behalf of TTI and Aruba Networks. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Absolutely. Hey, appreciate everyone's time. And Tony, thank you for hosting. And I'll stay on for a couple more minutes just in case there's any additional questions. I can certainly show additional features in the platform. So if anything comes up, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes.
All right, outstanding.
Hey, Brian, for anyone that's still on the line and wants to take a look at it, can you go into AI insights a little bit here? I think that's really important. one thing that we really loved from a clarity standpoint in Airwave was the ability to understand what's going on with some of the foundational pillars of networking, DNS, DHCP, those kinds of things, to figure out, hey, is it my network? Is it something else? Because as you guys all know, oftentimes it's always the network's fault. No matter what happens, if it's slow, even if it's DNS, it's not your fault. It's always your fault until you figure out whose fault it is. So if you could just kind of go through that tool that helps our customers get mean time to innocence, I think that's something that's really neat too.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty important. I was gonna hit on that because I thought we were digging a little bit deeper there, but if we can just, let's just drill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was intending on going through that. Clarity is actually under the Wi-Fi connectivity tab. So this is Clarity, if you're familiar with it from a central kind of point of view. So this is your DNS, DHCP association authentication times. AI Insights is actually completely different. It's that brand new feature to Aruba Central. So I think I had a good one clicked on earlier here as an example, and we can go back in time frame here. But really, this is the artificial intelligence built into the platform that determines, hey, there's an issue going on, right? Root cause, AP is here, too many unmanaged neighbors. And this is very prevalent in, congested urban environments, right? You're going to see that as a very common issue, especially in the 2.4 gigahertz band. But it also gives you, on top of that, a recommended solution, right? Check for rogue networks, right? Or, hey, it hears too many neighbors, reduce transit power. And that's done in the ARM configuration. And another thing we didn't touch on in regards to AI is that AI assist or smart search engine. So if you don't know how to adjust radio settings, you can actually type in ARM configuration here, and it'll actually walk you through the steps on how to get into radio profile configuration within the platform. What's really powerful about this, on top of showing root cause and recommendation, is actually we can look into like specific channel where these issues are occurring, hour of day, right? So to see the time when this issue is occurring, which is typically between 8 to 5, right, when most people are coming in, transit power signal to noise ratio, which APs this is affecting, and then even what sites these issues are occurring at. So definitely a really nice way to filter that out. But just to clarify, Wi-Fi connectivity is your network or stage-wide performance. AI Insights is something that's a brand new feature to Aruba Central that looks at kind of a predefined list of causes that we're able to determine and detect. And that list is going to be increased essentially every time a new iteration comes out. So with 2.5.0, we had a certain kind of sub list of causes and recommendations, and that list has only continued to grow with 2.5.1 and will continue to do so with 2.5.2. But yeah, any other questions on that? I mean, we can tab through the like channel, hour of day, transit power, signal noise ratio. You can see all the statistics that we're able to drill down into here.
I think the visibility that we're able to get in this platform is really powerful. I love being able to look and see who's the top user on my home central here, and find out that my 11-year-old using YouTube is just a little too much. So I go ahead and blacklist her.
Right.
There's a lot of power to this tool, but if you can't see it, you can't control it. And being able to collect all this visibility, be able to collect all this data, but then act upon it simply and easily with a couple of clicks, that just makes your life as an administrator super easy.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. To elaborate on that, so I don't want to say the reason for 2.5, but one of the main enhancements of 2.5 was the workflow. So this looks and feels entirely different than 2.4 or 2.4.9 even. So 2.5 was a complete overhaul to Aruba Central in general, where we couldn't even support ClearPass Device Insight until 2.5 was released. But on top of that, there's a brand new UI. On top of that, we're going to add support for CX switches and UXI sensors in the future. But workflows was incorporated right into the 2.5.0 release, where we have that account home section, and the purpose of the new UI and new workflows is designed so that it takes as few clicks as possible to get from any one point in the interface to any other point in the interface. So that was the intention behind the new redesign.
Yeah, and it really improved on, in my eyes, the way I say it, the dress right dress, the military piece of the way that, everything flows through Central. It really improved on that, and brought all of the innovation together where it was really easy to get to it now.
Yes, yes, absolutely, 100% agree with that. And then even features such as our alerting and reporting has been enhanced. So if we go to like alerts and events here, and I go into the configuration option, you can see in the past we used to just have like a big long list, and you would enable or disable. Now we have it segmented, right? If you want alerts based off of users, you can see that here. If we want alerts for APs, hey, an AP got disconnected, you can set that up here. I can click on that and set warning, minor, major, critical, what the duration is, which group do I want this alert for, which label, which site, what type of device, who am I going to email with that alert? So a lot of functionality and features and navigational enhancements have come to this platform very recently. But yeah, I'll leave it open.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything else anyone would like to see? I see we still have Mike and M. Stewart on.
So far, I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, hey,
All right.
definitely appreciate everyone's time. Tony, if there's any additional questions or follow-up, absolutely happy to help there, and certainly let us know. And thank you for giving us the time to speak today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Brian,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
We really appreciate your time today. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day. We'll certainly be in touch, as I mentioned, to reach out to you individually, and hopefully we can connect and take a deeper dive. Everybody have a great rest of the day. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Al.